Hey everybody, my name is Isaiah Messer and I am the Beta Alpha Psi Treasurer, and today we have Toni Williams with us.
Hi, my name is Hallie. I'm the BAP graduate assistant, and we're really excited to have Toni here with us from UWorld Roger. So I'm gonna hand it over to her and let her introduce herself and tell us a little bit about CPA review products and specifically what they do at UWorld Roger.
Great. Thank you guys for having me. As they said, my name is Toni Williams. I am the Business Development Manager for the South, as well as the Beta Alpha Psi Professional Partner with UWorld Roger CPA Review. Just a brief history about my career with the company. I actually started with them, 7 years ago as the Southern California representative based in Los Angeles. In 2016, they relocated me to Atlanta, where I actually previously lived and I currently reside, to manage our partnerships, our strategies and initiatives within the Southern states. You may be familiar with us as Rogers CPA Review, but in January of this year, we actually became part of the UWorld family. If you're not familiar with UWorld, they are a high stakes test prep exam company. So they've helped over 2 million students pass exams. At UWorld Roger CPA Review, we really are a company that puts its students first. So we want to ensure that we're providing our students with a course that's going to motivate them, engage them, and most importantly, help them pass that CPA exam. So we do have a 5-star program, and with our SmartPath predictive technology, we are helping students pass the exam on average 3 times faster than your typical candidate. And then we have a proven track record. We have a 91% pass rate, and that's for first-time test takers for all 4 parts. Really, we are a trusted partner within the accounting industry, and our goal is that when it's time for students to take that CPA path, they trust us to be their partner on that journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. I know I'm getting ready to take the CPA next semester, so that's definitely in the back of my mind.
So Toni, can you speak a little bit about your role in an accounting student's success?
My goal really in my role as the business development manager is to empower and encourage students as they embark on this CPA pathway. So one big question that I always get is, do I really need my CPA? In public accounting, it's still the gold standard. So the answer is yes. The firms expect you to not only take the exam, but fulfill all of the requirements to get your license. And even outside of public accounting, having a CPA is only going to be beneficial for opening up opportunities and really opening up many doors throughout your professional career. I think that sometimes students get discouraged when they look at the national pass rate and hear about challenges candidates face when pursuing their license. So what we try to do here at UWorld Roger CPA Review is really educate students early on about the ins and outs of the exam and the licensure process. And we talk about how to overcome the challenges. We cover tips for studying and just the overall CPA exam process. And then we also cover how UWorld Roger CPA Review is designed to have students not only pass that exam, but do so on the first try. So I also offer personal advising sessions for candidates where we talk through that study process and that study plan to really make sure that they're more confident in that they're taking the right path with their study track.
That sounds great. That's really helpful to have someone, walk through all of those steps with us, because as I've learned, it gets kind of complicated trying to, get to the end. So now that we know a little bit about how you can help accounting students succeed, let's kind of take a step back and we can talk about career success in general. So how can setting personal goals along with professional goals kind of help students achieve a more balanced life once they start their careers?
Many times when we're asked about our goals, we tend to heavily focus on just our career and financial goals, which is perfectly fine. But in order to really have a well-balanced life, you really need to incorporate other goals, personal goals such as mental, physical, family, and even spiritual. So more times than not, these goals are going to be intertwined and they're going to affect one another. So your personal goals can also have an impact on your career goals that you establish for yourself and will play a role in contributing to your overall success.
Definitely. So do you have some advice for some, practical steps that you would recommend to students to implement these?
Yes. So when setting your goals or determining what your goals are, you want to be sure that you have both long-term and short-term goals. The long-term goal is really going to focus on the course that you're heading in, and that determines that those short-term actions. So Many times the short-term goals are going to be your baby steps or the stepping stones to achieving that long-term goal. So it's important to understand that usually you're not focusing on all of these goals at once, so you're going to have to prioritize them. So for students right now, especially those of you that are maybe in your junior or senior years, you're probably focusing on career, financial, and even mental goals, for example. So from there, you're going to go into the goal setting procedures, which are reflection. That's really determining where do you see yourself in 5, 10, 20 years? And then there's the crystallization process, which is really identifying and having a clear picture of what those goals will look like, what you want that end result to look like. And then the formalization. This is really coming up with a plan, coming up with those short-term actions I talked about to get you from, point A to point B and from point B to point C. And at some point, there's going to be an evaluation. The quintessential time for most people to do that is New Year's. People tend to make New Year's resolutions at that time of the year. They tend to reevaluate to figure out what worked, what didn't work, what goals did they achieve, and then what are time wasters, or maybe your path or direction has changed and you need to modify your goals. Modification is the final step in this process. It's okay to cross things off of your list. That's not a problem at all. And so it's a cyclical process. From the modification point, you go back into reflecting, and you go through that process all over again.
That's awesome. With so many students, especially, like us, on the brink of our professional careers, what are some ways to effectively start your career off in a direction towards professional success?
For me, I think that getting involved is going to be one of the most important things you can do right now. And, many of you are already doing that by being part of organizations like Beta Alpha Psi, but, do things like attend your Meet the Firms, become a student member of the Alabama Society of CPAs. You want to cultivate a professor or instructor network, do some volunteer work. All of these are really going to give you the opportunity to effectively network. I think they say it's 80% of people get jobs based on their connections. So cultivating that professional network and making connections is going to be really important. And then I'd say start thinking about your CPA exam game plan. This is really going to set you apart from your peers, especially in the recruiting process. Like I said, it's still the gold standard. And recruiters really like to hear that you've already begun to start thinking about that process and what you need to do to get your license sooner than later. I'd say don't be afraid to take on new challenges and make sure that you're really staying up to date with the advances in the profession. It's changing a lot, and staying on top of how it's changing is only going to be beneficial to you. And I'd say most importantly, believe in yourself and don't limit yourself, because we're all capable of achieving so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. That's really great advice for all of our younger students right now that are in Beta Alpha Psi. So I think that's all the questions that we have for you, but thank you so much for taking the time to join us today and talk about how UWorld Roger can help students succeed.
Thank you for having me.